So for those of you who have not met me yet, I'm Eliza. You've probably received a bunch of emails from me, and I'm this year's fellow with the Alaska Resilience Initiative, and I coordinate History and Hope. So it's great to meet you all. And we've been going through this curriculum review process. We started with the education curriculum, and we've just done the early childhood curriculum. And Terry was fabulous enough to really help us with that process. So thank you so much, Terry. We couldn't have done it without her. And to start, I wanted to see, Terry, if you maybe wanted to say a few words about sort of what we tried to keep in mind while we were reviewing the curriculum and making these updates.
Yeah, I think we mostly just felt a need to make it a little simpler, a little less techy, a little more, I don't know, a little less language, not so much to process, just so that if some of our Head Start staff, and I'm sure this is true in all Head Start programs, a lot of them enter the field without college degrees and that's things. So a lot of my sense was that it felt like it spoke in its original form, was maybe a little too much for certain audiences. So I think we just tried to make it feel simpler and a little more down to earth. And we also tried to, we replaced some of the images with ones that were more relevant to early childhood rather than elementary education. So it kind of split the two, and you did a wonderful job with it, Eliza. So thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, and I think going along with that, one of the other things we tried to address was that previously the education and the early childhood curriculums were pretty similar. And so I think some trainers gravitated towards the education curriculum just for any sort of presentation to any educator, whether it's early childhood or middle and high school. They're a little more different now. So I think that this curriculum is going to be one that you're going to feel more comfortable using more often, or at least that's our hope. So I'm going to share my screen and pull up the slides so that you can see the changes we've made. Okay, can everyone see that? Great, and I'm actually going to leave it like this so that you can see some of the notes too. So these intro slides we've left the same. And when we go into the ACE study, what we've done here is really try to cut slides. So these initial slides going over the types of ACEs, that ACEs are interrelated, and the basic information on ACEs are all the same. Then when we get into ACEs and health problems, we have still this initial slide. But then we've taken out a bunch of the slides that go over the specific health issues related to ACEs and replaced it with one slide that summarizes some of the health issues that we know are connected to adverse childhood experiences. A little bit simpler. And if there's specific health issues that you want to call out as a trainer, you could go in and replace these with the health issues that you wanted to highlight. We have left this specific slide with showing the relationship between ACEs and suicide attempts, basically because we think it's such a powerful example of ACEs relationship to mental health. And then for the Alaska data, we've left in 2 slides with information on the health issues linked to ACEs. So limited activity due to health problems by ACE score, and Alaskan adults diagnosed with a depressive disorder by ACE score. But those are the only 2 that we've left in. And then after those 2 slides, we have our two COVID slides. So the first asks participants to think about how social isolation can amplify ACEs, and the second about how stress might relate to ACEs. And we really think these are a good place for some discussion to get audiences talking about how ACEs have impacted their lives and the lives of the children and students they know. Terry, do you want to add anything about this section?
No, I think this is a wonderful place for inviting, personal experiences, anything people want to talk about, because it's so relevant. It's so relevant and so raw and so much a part of everyone's life right now. So I think it's a great, and it's right in the right place in the presentation as well, I think.
Yeah, and I think that by cutting some of the ACEs data slides, we've left a little more time for trainers to spend that time doing that sort of discussion. So we've also added, same as the education curriculum, these breaks, and they're not mandatory. We're not forcing trainers to take a break here. We've just tried to put them in where we think they fit. If you think your participants need a short break. So moving into how ACEs affect us, these beginning slides are the same, talking about the socio-ecological model, and moving into pregnancy. These slides are still the same. We discuss toxic stress during pregnancy. There's 2 slides on epigenetics. We've cut down the content a little bit in the trainer's notes, and cut from 3 slides to 2 slides. And if you think that this information is not going to resonate with your audience or it's too much, feel free to cut these slides. And then we move into a little bit of a discussion of the brain. And then this is a big change we've made. So we previously had slides on resilience, but we've replaced the slides explaining resilience with a short video on resilience. And I think we have the time. So if it's okay with all of you, it's about an 8-minute video, and I'd like to play it so that you can see why we've decided to put this in. Can everyone hear that?
Brains. They are everywhere. In the world's gentlest places.
Ooh. Sorry. Okay, the lesson is don't touch anything when you're playing the video.
Brains. They are everywhere. In the world's gentlest places. And its ours. In this unforgiving environment, some brains exhibit troubling signs. Addiction, illness, depression, social disorder. Yet others thrive. Why have some brains developed the ability to cope in harsh conditions while others struggle? It is one of nature's great secrets.
Hi. Hello? This is amazing. But I just need to clarify a few things. This great secret? It's actually science. Severe adversity isn't good for any brain. But it is true that some brains do better than others in the face of significant challenges.
Oh, a scientist. Yes, I agree. This is a great secret of science.
Great, yes, but not a secret. Let me explain. We're born with brains, but our brains change as we grow. They develop based on experiences we have, and different brains respond to experiences in different ways. Okay, thanks. I'll let you get back to it.
Indeed. Some brains show robustity and strongitude, while others.
Sorry, we scientists use the word resilience. Some brains are more resilient than others.
Yes, resilience.
Resilience?
Resilience. Revenge of the cortex.
Resilience is a result of the interplay between genes and life experiences. It's a brain's ability to maintain good functioning under adversity.
Resilience makes us invincible.
Nothing makes us invincible. What resilience does is to give less leverage to negative factors in our lives and tip the balance in favor of positive outcomes.
Resilience. Fate's legendary prize.
Whoa, no! Some people are born with more resilience than others, but resilience can also be built over time. It's a big project involving parents, caregivers, teachers,
Kith, kin, karaoke comrades,
soccer coaches, counselors.
pastry chefs, associate producers, even millennials. Like a barn raising in times of old.
Yeah. In fact, we scientists believe strong brain architecture is the foundation for resilience. And, oh, look over there.
Oh, yes. A young brain returns after months of isolation and adversity. No words can describe what this poor brain has suffered.
There are words that describe it. We scientists call it toxic stress.
Toxic stress lies in wait.
No, that's not. No. Stress happens inside the body. It's the fight or flight system kicking in. But if stress hormones are elevated too high and for too long, it can have negative effects on the brain and body.
Stress, a nasty poison.
Not all stress, just toxic stress. With the right supports, we can make severe stress tolerable, which means it won't do lasting damage. Stress can even be positive because it helps us to learn problem solving and coping skills, which leads us back to resilience.
Alas, this brain is resilience-less.
No, it isn't. Let me explain. Remember when I talked about giving less leverage to negative experiences and tipping the scale in a positive direction? Well, here's a little something I've been working on. It's a really amazing metaphor. Here it goes. I call it the resilience scale.
Resilience scales. Protective armor plates.
It's shiny, but no. The resilience scale helps us understand why some brains are more resilient than others.
The resilience scale sends out invisible resilience rays that's
It's really just a scale. See? It's a beam being held up by a fulcrum.
full of crumbs.
Geez, no! A fulcrum. You know, like high school Never mind. Let me just clean this up. See, negative experiences add weight to one end of the beam, and positive factors add weight to the other end. Ideally, we want the scale to tip toward the positive side and lead toward positive life outcomes.
The brain's future literally hangs in the balance.
The position of the fulcrum can be understood as our original capacity for resilience. It's something like our genetic starting position. Remember the young brain that was struggling to survive? Look, it started life with the fulcrum off center, giving more leverage to negative experiences. Serious stuff like abuse, neglect, and chaotic environments. That means positive factors like responsive relationships, safe environments, and learning opportunities had less leverage. Over time, the negative load shifted the fulcrum even farther in a negative direction.
Tragedy.
Not at all. Right now, this brain is experiencing poor health, but with help, the scale can be tipped toward more positive outcomes. First thing we can do is to stop negative experiences from stacking up. Then we can add more positive factors, loading up the positive side of the scale. And we're not done. We can work to shift the fulcrum in a way that favors positive outcomes.
The fulcrum, an amazing instant fix-it button.
No, it's a process. It involves many supportive people and plenty of time. Remember? This brain is still young, so adult brains can work with it to relieve toxic stress and teach coping skills. In early childhood, these efforts can push the fulcrum a considerable distance.
Childhood, filled with fascination and fulcrum flexibility.
Sort of, but there are other sensitive developmental periods that are windows of opportunity, like adolescence. And even if this brain doesn't get help until adulthood, change is still possible. It will take more support, and the change will be less dramatic. But any fulcrum can be moved to make positive outcomes more achievable.
The bad experiences disappear.
I'm afraid not. It's hard to undo the effects of past negative experiences, and it takes time. But we can eventually relieve the burden of those negative experiences. Our little brain can get the help it needs to adapt, recover, and enjoy good health and wellness.
And everyone, everywhere can become more resilient. For Earth.
Why not? With the right support.
Oh, I clicked off of it again, but that is the end. I really like this video. I mean, it's trying very hard to be funny, but I do think it's doing a good job of getting at the major points that the resilience slides that we originally had were also getting at, but breaks up the presentation with a little bit of a different format. And also, when we did that trainer survey back in the fall, we got a bunch of comments about how heavy this material can be, sort of the whole way through. And I think that this provides a nice break to that heaviness. And also, once you've played that video, this is a nice place to stop and have some discussion about what everyone just watched. Terry, is there anything you want to add there?
I especially love the part where the brains are pushing the fulcrum. I think that just that image, I think makes that concept so easy to understand. There's only one tiny little piece of this whole video that I don't like, and I don't know, maybe it's a trigger for me, but when that one knife pops out, it kind of makes me jump. And it that's the only piece. If I could remove that knife jumping out, I would, but I suppose it's effective. It's there for a reason when they put it together.
Yeah, and this was made by Alberta Family Wellness. They collaborated with the Harvard Institute on the Developing Child and frameworks to make this.
Hey, this is Anna. I have a question. I dig this video. I'm stoked to share it with some other folks here in Homer too. And all the, Alberta Family, I don't know frameworks, but I do. But in Harvard, it's like they took all our slides and made a video like we asked them to. It's really great. I'm curious about, I'm just thinking about the rural villages where I work, and an 8-minute video actually working over Zoom sometimes. I mean, a lot of the stuff we've all figured out the ways to make it work, but if it didn't work, would facilitators still have access to all those slides like easily if they had to replace this and we had to speak to it?
Yes, definitely. They're still in the education curriculum, and I can make a separate set of those slides that you can have to easily add in if it doesn't work. The video is also on YouTube, so if it didn't work in the moment, you could give people the link to watch later when the connection is stronger.
Great. Okay, cool. Yeah, because if it didn't work, we got to be like on our toes, ready to say all the cool stuff they just said in our own voice.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's a really good note. So we follow that up with some slides. If you remember the original curriculums, these used to be a whole set of slides on different types of social supports. And so instead of that, we've replaced it with a single slide where you can ask participants to think about what types of social supports can buffer stress that individuals experience. And it gives you some example answers. And then again, for institutional supports, you can sort of open that up as a discussion about what institutional supports individuals need. And the same with law and policy. So rather than just having you as the trainer feed people these answers, I think it's nice to let audiences think about what supports exist in their communities and what supports people need in their communities. And then we have this example of a cultural strength and resilience practice, which is naming practices. I really like this slide. So that ends the sort of quote unquote pregnancy slides, although they go over more than just pregnancy. And then we move into some information about infancy and the importance of relationships. This is all basically the same. And strengthening families. And then we have another slide for discussion where you can ask audiences to think about ways we can support healthy families. And then a slide about the need to create culturally affirming places. And then we have our slides on history, so the history part of History and Hope. These slides are the same. If you've seen the new education curriculum, we added this slide about historical trauma just to explain that concept a little more for audiences that are interested in talking more about that concept. This is the same slide. These are the same. Although we edited this one slightly to turn it again into a question slide about the cultural strengths that your audience draws on for strength. Then we have some more of these healing movements. And in the curriculum, you'll see we have multiple. That's not necessarily telling you that you have to do both of them. It's just so that you have options and you can edit as you want. Then we have our slides on stress. So if you show the video, they will have already gotten a preview to this, but we have slides on types of stress and then several slides on the toxic stress response. These slides are the same. And then we have our slides on how trauma shows up and how children are punished for trauma responses. These slides are the same. And if you've seen the education redo, we added this slide explaining how racial bias factors into this process. Oh, Red, I'm seeing your comment in the chat about having a kid doing the regulation poses. I think that would be great. I'll ask Tara about that. Those slides come from another organization, and I'm not sure how they feel about us modifying, but if possible, I think that would be a good addition. So yeah, this slide explains, it comes from Frameworks again, and talks about how implicit bias can impact educators. And then we have a slide on race and implicit bias. We had a few more slides on types of biases for the education curriculum, but we've cut it down here. And then we move into the solutions in early childhood. So we have this slide in sort of to do a discussion before you start talking about the specific ways in which ACEs and stress can show up, to have the audience think about this a little bit in their own workplaces, how they see this. And then most of these slides are the same. So it just goes over the ways that ACEs can show up. And then we have two more slides that are a place for your audience to talk about how COVID-19 has specifically impacted their work. So we have one slide on how COVID-19 has impacted early education, and then another for them to think about what we can do about it. And then we have some slides on trauma-informed principles. These are all the same. And then for the SEL slide, we had this slide before, but we've added different examples of resources to this slide. And I think it's a good place to ask early educators what sort of resources they use. Terry, is there anything you want to say about this slide? These resources came from Terry, by the way. Thank you.
These were we just replaced some of the resources there with ones that were a little more relevant to early childhood, but I think there's so many resources out there. And so I think that inviting participants to share at this point is great, because it just gives new things we can learn about and sharing with each other.
Mm-hmm. And we also tried to include resources that are free.
Right.
And then these slides are all the same. And that's the end of the slide deck. Terry, anything that I missed that you wanted to cover in the slides?
No, you did that very well. And just invite any other comments or recommendations from other people would be great.
Yeah, we'd love to hear comments, questions, additional edits you'd like to see, anything like that.
Now you are. We think it looks super cool. Yeah, definitely good to see another updated curriculum and always improving. I did have the thought for which I don't know why I haven't thought of it before now, but for the education also, our Project Grad where I work, we have Creating a Peaceful Classroom. It's a whole mindfulness series that was created with a Kundalini yoga teacher that works with our organization, and it's all free online. But I can drop that in the chat, Eliza. That could be a easy handout, or I don't know, not handout, but on a resource sheet or something, just so folks learn about it anywhere. And it's free.
Great. Yeah. We don't actually have any handouts that go with this curriculum right now,
Okay.
but that sounds like something that educators might like.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to put it on. Well, I mean, I personally would just enter it my own slide with a picture of it or something, but for other folks, yeah, I know, I guess that's what we learned from the surveys too, of facilitators or participants, the handouts just kind of floated away in the wind. So yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. And as I recall, Anna is her name, right? That does the yoga. Right, yeah. As I recall, she had it broken down by age group, and she does have activities that would be, work for pre-K, kindergarten, these very young children and their providers. I think that would be great. And if we wanted to do a handout with this, it could be one that just had, if it's going out electronically, it could have links, that the link to that, links to, Conscious Discipline Free, Devro, the different sites that have some free resources for families. It could have all those, it could just be one colorful slide that has like, oh, there's this with the link.
That's what I was thinking, Terry, is we just add it to the logo page. So you nailed it.
Yeah, we add it to the logo page, but then do participants don't have the, they lose that, right? I mean, they don't have the PowerPoint. So the links, if the links are on a separate document that we give to them or email to them or something, right?
I was thinking the same thing, but you could just get a plan ready to like drop a bunch of links in a chat. I mean, that would be the equivalent of like having a physical handout in a physical space.
We talked before, it's somewhere, about how we reconnect with those in the class. And so I didn't know if in the past if there's been an email the next day that just says, hey, it was really great going on that journey with you. Here are some links to some of the resources we talked about.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. And we can make like a PDF that you can then send people with all of those links.
I like that idea. I think the follow-up is such a critical piece. And we asked for, I forgot how far after a presentation that a survey goes out. There's two, right? There's one soon and then one much later.
Yeah, so ideally you can give participants the link to the pre-post survey, the retrospective pre-post right after, because that generally gets the best response. And what I've been doing is just dropping the SurveyMonkey link in the chat at the end. And then there is a 6-month survey that we send 6 months after. And what I've been doing with the virtual trainings is we have a virtual sign-in survey now too, just to make it easier to collect participants' emails so that we can send links afterwards if you want, and also so that we can send that 6-month follow-up. I'm going to do an email to all trainers with those links again. And also, I think they need to be updated on the trainer portal, so I'll make sure that happens as well.
Yeah, if we had the links to resources, and it could be even sort of a working document that, like, if participants offer other resources, we could add those to the document. And then maybe, I don't know if there's a way in the, like, when the 6-month follow-up survey goes out, if we could just kick that resource list out to them again, just as kind of a reminder, or I don't know, a thank you, like that. I don't know if there's a way to do that, but that might be. And then it would also include their shared ideas, because sometimes people have a hard time grabbing things from a chat. They're participating, and some people are really savvy and will grab that quickly. I know for me, that's a little harder. I don't always like, oh, I missed that, and I'm scrolling back through the chat. And so just it could be a way to, like, pull their ideas, validate that their ideas were great and important, and share them back out with the group.
I dig that, Terry, that idea of like, yeah, gifting the resources again later, because we all, forget about them, but about 6 months later. But I don't know if that's informing data, but it'd be cool if, yeah, when they open the 6-month link, that they're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that resource. I always meant to look at that. But then maybe we'd get more honest data too, because instead of wondering what the resources even were 6 months ago, they'd see at least the title, be like, oh yeah, conscious discipline. I have not used that yet, but I mean to. Or that would be cool if there's the same. Maybe it would help people open the email too, because survey links can just be intimidating and like a time suck. But maybe if they get something out of it too. Yeah, that could be cool.
I love that. I will work on that, especially the idea of collecting and sharing resources from participants. I think that's a great way to keep them involved and collect more resources that we didn't even know about. Any other thoughts or questions about the slide deck? Okay, well, it will be updated on the trainers portal. And I'll do a PowerPoint version and a Google Slide version because I know Google Slides are easier for some of you. And with it will also be a little slide deck guide. So we made one for the education curriculum too. It goes over all the new slides in case you have questions. And it also has some recommended timing and ways to modify the curriculum for different audiences. So we think this curriculum works pretty well for parents too, but there's definitely some places where you'll want to make modifications or cut some slides that are more educator specific if you are giving this to parents. And then the only other thing I will add is we've done 2 curriculums now, but we have not updated the healthcare curriculum. So if any of you work in healthcare and are interested in helping out or know someone who works in healthcare and is interested in helping out, let me know because I would greatly appreciate some help with that curriculum.
I'll raise my hand.
Thanks, Mike. That would be great. Thank you all for coming today. And thanks again to Terry. Her help was so invaluable in getting this updated. And I'm really excited about the new curriculum. I think it looks really great.
Well, as always, I threw in a couple ideas and Eliza did all the work, but thank you. It was, I appreciate it because I feel so much, I feel like it's more usable to a lot of audiences and, people that I work with in my job. So thanks, Eliza.
Thank you. And yeah, making it usable is always the goal. And as always, feel free to edit it however you want to make it work for your audiences. All right, thank you all.